Well, the great thing we have going for us, aside from just having a wonderful staff at the county and our department heads and elected officials, is that we've put together this kind of roundtable briefing group that meets 5 days a week and includes all 3 municipalities and most of our key departments, school districts, Economic Development Corporation, Sol Vista. So every move we make now, we're trying to move in unison, holding hands. We're all in agreement, or even when we disagree on details, we agree to move forward with the group consensus. So, tougher times ahead, I think, in terms of navigating some of this reopening of commerce. But we just finished, that's why I was a little late getting here. We just finished our big powwow, and the information's going out through the chambers, through our county website, through the EDC, about how you get certified basically as a business to open on May 1st. And not all business sectors are able to open May 1st, but all that are, the system's already in place. And so the public should know that we're not just throwing up in the doors, we're actually doing a check-in with every single business, allocating the staff we need to through public health, just to make sure that everyone's got a plan for how they're gonna operate. And they've signed off on that plan, and the plan's been looked over and approved, or improvements recommended as needed.
You wanted to come and talk about the 2020 census.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things that we don't get to choose when they happen, right? Wildfires, pandemics, asteroids, and the U.S. Census. All we know is that it's coming, 2020, here it is. So this is a critically important function that was built into our Constitution right at the get-go. It's very important to get a count of our population for a lot of different reasons. And not to backtrack on what you were just saying, Jimmy, but COVID-19 is a good example of why you want to have an accurate count of your population, because so much funding is tied back to that population number.
It's super easy. I think people think that the census is like
a test,
or like a test, or like paying taxes. It's like, oh, this is, ooh, I gotta call my somebody. No, it's like, it's so easy. It's just,
they had to make it easy.
Boom, done.
Yeah. So here's the way it works. If you get your mail at your physical address, you should receive your census form in the mail. If you get your mail at a P.O. box, which unfortunately in this instance, a lot of our population does, Poncha Springs and Buena Vista and many places in between. If you get your mail in a P.O. box, you're not going to get your census form that way. You're going to get a notice telling you what to do. But here's cutting to the chase. Here's what you need to do. If you go to my2020census.gov, okay, MY2020 census, CENSUS.gov, or you can call 844-330-2020. You can go ahead and do your census. What they're going to send you in the mail to your P.O. box has an ID number that you would provide to then identify yourself to do your census. But you can also just use your address when you go into my2020census.gov, and then you can go ahead and take care of it. It literally takes 5 minutes. I mean, they've designed it so that everybody ought to be able to do this. So it really is pretty user-friendly. I want to give you a little update on how we're doing as a county. To date, 55.5% of Colorado households have responded. Chaffee County's self-response rate is a bit behind that. We're at 43.6% as a county. Salida, where they get their mail mostly at their address, they're at 55.7. They're actually ahead of the state average. Uni's at 31.4, and Poncha's at 17.6. I don't think that has anything to do with desire, concern, patriotism, anything. It has to do with they don't get their mail yet at their physical address, and so that's put them behind. But it couldn't be easier to catch up. If you don't do it now, somebody will come to your door eventually and either hand you the form or ask to do it with you right then and there. But better to just get it done. Let's get this out of the way before something else weird happens, and make sure that we get counted, right?
Easy. It's super easy. It's easy.
Yeah. You know, the other thing besides funding that I think is important for people to realize is our representation in Congress and the state legislature is tied to the census, because it looks at where the population resides and then creating districts based on that population. If you've ever felt it's weird, and I don't care what your political affiliation, and I don't care what you think about Doug Lamborn, you know, I don't, it's not about that at all. But the way the districts are created for Congress right now, we're in the panhandle of Doug Lamborn's district, right? And the pan is El Paso County, Colorado Springs. We don't get the greatest representation up here because most of the people live in an urban setting. It's nothing against Congressman Lamborn. Just most of his people live in the city. We're way out on the end. They try. Our neighbors, many of our neighbor counties are in Scott Tipton's district. Well, hey, he's a rural congressman, and a lot of times, you know, where he's coming from and the people he's dealing with are more like us. I have no idea what will happen with redistricting, but that's just an example of how these lines get drawn in really strange ways just to make it all work. And if that's something that you're concerned about, the first step in making sure we're properly represented is to get an accurate census of our county.
Yeah, it's so important for political representation, for all of the health and human services stuff that people could use right now. I mean, they need to know who's where and what and how many. And it's not like it happens all the time. It's every 10 years.
It's every 10 years. That's right. It's so
yes.
They use different formulas to try to update it as an estimate over those 10 years. But the 10-year count is really important. And to tie it back to our current situation, you know, the Department of Public Health in Chaffee County is 80% funded by state and federal grants. All those different programs, never mind the epidemiology stuff, but you know, tobacco cessation, breastfeeding, diabetes, parental counseling, all that stuff is funded by grants, and the grants tie back to our population in terms of eligibility.
Well, thank you very much, Greg. Is there something you'd like to add about anything going on in the county? And you're welcome to talk about COVID-19.
Here's one more thing about the census. It's estimated, I think this was a study done by George Washington University in wait a minute, is that right? No, Georgetown, sorry. Georgetown in Washington, D.C. That's what I was trying to say. Their estimate was that in Colorado, and this really applies in the rural areas, each completed census form, each household is worth $2,300 a year in federal and state funding. So wow. We're asking you to spend 10 minutes to get this done. It's the best paid we'll ever get for your 10 minutes of volunteer time. So really encourage you to all to dig in and get that done.
Our next guest, Greg, is Rosie, and Rosie started this awesome sending love campaign to our fellow residents out at Columbine. Have you heard Rosie's project?
Yes, I have. And I saw this morning that the Pony Patch took their horses over there yesterday and walked them around the perimeter around the windows, so all of the
right on
residents could see that, get a little wildlife.
That's so awesome.
Well, while we're doing that, let's all say a prayer for Columbine. You know, that's really ground zero right now for us, and our hearts are with all the residents and their staff, and we just really hope that that they can pull through. They're working so hard to keep everybody healthy.
Absolutely. There's Gabby and Rosie.
Hi guys.
Yeah, Rosie, this is Greg. Greg, this is Rosie.
Hi, Rosie.
Greg is our county commissioner, Rosie.
He's like, yeah, big deal.
Good job.
Awesome. Can you draw?